live on WFLA Now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gail Guayardo.
Okay. There is a new movement in the medical world, women wanting their breast implants removed. It's called explants. Some for aesthetic reasons, but for many, health reasons are why they're doing this. And here to share her personal story is best-selling author Andi Liu, who's out with her 10th health title, Treasured Chest, Exposing Explants and Empowering You. Andi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Really, Gail, I feel so grateful that you're allowing me to have the platform to help continue to educate the millions of women that might need to join the dots, and they may have breast implant illness or undetected ruptures as well.
Well, before we hear your powerful journey, and it really is a powerful one, and you're going to learn so much today. Actually, this is the first time that Andi herself has seen what the surgeons pulled out of her body, a leaking implant that was leading to just so many horrible health conditions. I do quickly want to introduce you to our BloomTampaBay.com producer and digital reporter, Brody Waddell. He sometimes is behind the scenes, but he definitely jumps in with questions.
That's
and
right.
Want to get the conversation going. So glad you're always here with us, Brody.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a very interesting topic.
It really, really is. I actually have had two very close friends of mine have their implants removed, and they were tied to major medical issues. And the same thing happened to you.
You know, I'm still in shock. And like you said, this is the first time I'm seeing the footage of the video that my surgeon gave, because a lot of women are requesting their product. They want that to, there's actually potentially so many, and listen to me, I'm almost at a loss for words as I'm watching it, because it's so difficult to watch. This made me suffer for almost 2 years. I was begging 6 surgeons to get it out of me, and everybody said there's no real rush. You've got stage 2 contracture, where the bag actually starts to contract inside the body and wants to the body wants to heal by expelling a toxic object through an orifice. We know that when, we have other illnesses, whether it's a rash or, coughing, we're letting those particles out through an orifice. And this is kind of the same thing, where the body recognizes it to be a foreign invader. There's new data to support that it is an inflammatory driver and that it creates a cytokine storm or an inflammatory response. And I knew exactly where this rupture was. I could feel it in the left side. My whole underarm was just inflamed. I couldn't wear a bra anymore.
You were losing hair. Look at this video.
Well, you know what? I've still got that. And I'm wearing halo wigs and clip-ins and everything. And so it takes a long time for us sufferers to actually detox. If at all, we can get better. And what's interesting, and I'm so grateful for Brody to be in this conversation too, Gail, because I am so pleased at how many men are supporting us women in this coming back home to ourselves journey and kind of allowing us to embrace our divine femininity, because what's under our chest, which is why I called it Treasured Chest, is our hearts, and we will have big scars and we will have emotional trauma.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Andi, and I do want to hear what you have to say about this too, Brody. I think as women, and I'm not speaking for all of you women out there, I'm really speaking about myself personally. And we talked a little about this when you were on Bloom, which is our nationally syndicated talk show. Growing up at the age of 21, I got my first job in TV. Here I am, 57 years old. I've been under a spotlight. And
you look amazing. I can't believe you just said you're 57 years old. You look amazing.
Right? I know.
I appreciate that. But growing up under a lens, literally, and the older you get and the younger the girls are coming in from behind you, and the pressure is insurmountable, and you start to do things and you try to hang on to your youth. And there might be women out there listening or watching and judging me. I can't explain the pressure of what it's like. And I don't know, I was like the ugly duckling kid. I don't know if there's some childhood trauma there, but I think many women, we walk around feeling like we're just simply not enough.
Yeah.
And we do things like implants that could harm us, that could kill us. I mean, your organs were shutting down.
Yeah, so just going through, not only there was hair loss, there was loss of libido, dry eyes, sudden food intolerances, inflammation everywhere, feelings of anxiety and depression. I did have PTSD about 5 years ago, and I think that was jaded because I remember a point where my psychologist was saying to me, Andi, listen to you, a few years ago. You've moved from clinical psychology to positive psychology in the way you're speaking. And I was like, yeah, look at me. I'm amazing. And it was at that turning point where I realized my diagnosing doctor said, hey, honey, you do have breast implant illness, that I went, whoa, it must be true, because I could tell that my mental state was improving. However, I still felt like I was shutting down. I was dying or wanting to die. So this cytokine storm, this inflammatory response where the immune cells, the mast cells, start attacking each other because it wants out, that's when all of these symptoms start to come about. And, there is a big movement of women starting to support each other. They are being censored. So they're hiding in online groups, on Facebook and things like that, just saying, what do? I can't afford the surgery, which typically costs $14,000, or, and the insurance won't give it back. Or, my doctor won't listen to me, or I can't be fit in. And that's because there's just not enough surgeons that are trained to do this new type of surgery. And that is called total capsulectomy or en-bloc surgery, where they're removing that surrounding tissue with the bag, because that's the new types of breast cancer: squamous cell carcinoma, anaplastic large cell lymphoma, and new information continues to come out. They need to be sent off to the labs, and people want to keep their products because there are class actions brewing, is what I was trying to say when I was getting choked up. And the surgeon, as you'll see on the footage when you're looking at this, Bloom Health Club footage, the video is so important to check out, because you can see where he's pinpointing to that hole or that rupture that was literally leaking into the system.
I want to talk about the surgery itself, and we're going to kind of go through all the video for the folks who are having the opportunity to watch this. I know it's on my Facebook page right now. It's on bloomtampabay.com. We're going to upload this everywhere so people can see it on YouTube. There's the video that Andi was just talking about. Andi, I noticed at the cover of your book, it's so beautiful, Treasured Chest. You actually show the scarring under. There's a bit of scarring where you can see where you had these implants removed. Let's talk about that, because I think there's two different types of women out there listening. There are women that are feeling sick, and they know they got to get the implants out. They know that that's what's causing the problem. It's a no-brainer. Try to get to the doctor, get the money together, do what you can, get them out, because it's making you sick. But then there's other women out there trying to find the courage, knowing deep down inside that the implants are not healthy, but they just don't know. Maybe it's not even the money standing in their way. Maybe it's just, what will I look like with these scars? What will my husband think about me? What will my boyfriend think about me?
Will I ever have a boyfriend?
Will I ever have a boyfriend? And, you do. I mean, if you jump on these blogs and you read these stories, while you said you were happy to have Brody here and the men out there that embrace what we're doing and want to see our hearts, there are also men out there that are very shallow, and maybe you're married to one, maybe you're dating one. I mean, how does a woman get past what made us do it in the first place?
So thank you so much for seeing me in this light. Thank you so much for noticing what my message is with that, because it was a very brave thing for me to do. And I kept waking up at night going, oh, what have I done? Why did I take this photo like this? And, my publicist, Matt, is being amazing. He's like, go for it. It's brave. It's
brave.
bold.
It's brilliant.
And I was scared, and I still am scared. And, there are things that upset me because, for example, Amazon keep deleting it from being visible, and it's really interesting.
Why? Because the scars are there?
Well, it's apparently risque, and yet why is sort of other imagery that is sexualized allowed to be out there? But then when it comes to women's health issues, we can't show our under boob, our scar, and this is why I did it, because these are very big scars. It's not like the implant scars. The explant scars need to be very large because we are pulling out that scar tissue as well. And
is it just the scar under the breast?
Yeah, good question, because some women also have a vertical scar going up to the areola, and perhaps even an areola scar. Let's not forget to mention that when you are touching or cutting that areola, if they do want to get a lift or whatever, you can get loss of sensation of that whole sexual organ. And so again, it's like, at what cost are we doing this? For through who's really in control is one of my favorite chapters in the book, in this production line of, do you want a secondary surgery? Do you want a fat transfer? Do you want a lift? And these are all the confusing things that women are expressing to me. They're feeling medically gaslit. They're their words, that they feel like they are not in control. And this is why I wrote the book, to bring us back home to our organic selves and love us in that divine femininity, organic state, holding on to what's precious to us, which is our hearts and who we are as women. There's also a contribution in there from Pinky McKay, who wrote the foreword to my second book called The Modern Day Mother. This is my 10th book. But Pinky McKay was poignant in this story because we talked about what the breasts are. And I like to call them breasts, not jugs, not tits, not boobs, like all these, right. And because, and this is how the title of the book came out, because I was talking to a woman who was an ex-journalist, and she was helping me to sort of brainstorm names. And I said, see, all of those like sort of puns that's exactly what myself and this lactation consultant never liked it when we went through the media, when we talked about breastfeeding, because it's the breast. And honouring that and what we have to do as women, and even just the notion as a wellness expert, I know that when a female fetus is developing inside a womb, the breast cells are immune cells. They begin as immune cells.
I did not know that.
We're so much more.
So let's get back to it. What was it like, the emotional journey of having the implants removed, being left with the scars, and wondering if you did the right thing?
Well, I kept saying to these different surgeons, because I was trying to find one that would operate on me, that would give me a discount so I could afford it, sadly. And one that wouldn't say, you're going to look saggy, because it becomes from a 2-hour surgery to a 4 or 6-hour surgery. And I just decided to get him out with this Professor Diva. I had to fly back to Australia with my son.
Was she the one on the Today Show with you on?
That one was my diagnosing doctor, Dr. Tanya.
Right. Okay.
Professor Diva is a male in Sydney at Macquarie University. I wanted to do it here in America because this is our new home. But yeah, sadly, it was just too expensive. And that's what got me like really sad for the ladies. That's why instead of healing and taking my time, I just went to work and wrote, because these are the scars. You want to keep talking about the scars, right? I was saying to these surgeons, I don't want any more scars. I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and I'm going to say, these are my war wounds. That's what I kind of, saw it as. And I felt actually in one instance medically gaslit myself, with a particular surgeon taking notes on that. He sent those notes to Professor Diva, the original one that I saw in Australia, and said, no surgeon should operate on her until she's seen by a psychological person and get a clearance. And I was just like, what? Wow. Wow. And of course, Professor Diva wanted to know all of this. He was very sorry. And he actually got himself on a plane to present the new data that supports that this is the inflammatory driver, and help these, I guess, colleagues understand the shame that women carry and the magnitude of what this operation means for us.
Yeah. So it's a huge step. I mean, it's a big surgery, but for you, it was a life-saving surgery. How do you feel now?
And it's interesting that you say this, because I eventually was able to access, in Australia, they call it a superannuation, which is kind of money that you put away in case when you retire, you need it, right? Now, we don't have this in America, but just towards the end, that last, I was like, help, I'm dying, please triage me. And my diagnosing doctor kept saying, not long to go now, Bella. She was just kind of keeping me stable. And when I was filling out the Australian Taxation Office forms, it said it was for an early release on compassionate grounds for a life-threatening illness operation. That's when I went, whoa, this is a life-threatening illness. I am dying.
Your organs are shutting down.
Right. And I couldn't actually eliminate the digestive system, the bowels. It was only every 5 days. And just before the surgery, it was 10 days. I was like, if you just put me under now, get it out of me, because if I don't go to the bathroom, I am going to die. And when I woke up immediately, literally a weight was off my chest. I felt alive and happy to be alive. And I started passing bowel movements again from day dot. Like, it was just so toxic. And so
you felt better immediately.
Immediately.
Even after a major surgery, you felt better.
I couldn't believe it. And then I was posting stuff on Instagram, and my surgeon was so funny. He called me in to have a week sort of checkup and everything, and he was like, "Don't bleep up my work."
I love
because I was too vivacious and vitalistic.
So you felt great. What did it feel like to look in the mirror?
That was interesting because I didn't want to look for the first sort of week. And then I had a little sneaky peek, and then I was like, hey, I'm actually enjoying coming home to me. I did have to do a lot of deep work. I did a lot of kinesiology, neuroemotional technique, chiropractic, and really addressing the root cause, which was the trauma behind why I put them in the first place. So I recommend.
Why would you come up with? Why do you do it? Because I think a lot of us are sitting out there thinking, why do we do what we do?
For everybody, it's different. But I was so surprised to hear that I wasn't the only one that did it for sexual assault trauma reasons. And that was heavy. Because when I put them on and made the decision, everyone's like, why on earth would a wellness expert ever do something like this if she knew that was potentially toxic? But when I put them on, I really felt like it transcended my mental health to another level when I was in that intimate space. I didn't have to think about that prepubescent child anymore. I felt like this other woman. But then I had to go, to go through, really just going, I'm going to be a woman now in my natural state. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I'm glad you're being so raw with us. I appreciate you sharing your emotions because I think so many of us are scared. We're so far from being our natural selves that we don't even know what that means anymore.
And let's go back to you and the pressure that you felt though, Gail, because, I feel like this is creating conversation that will have a ripple effect into everything, because how we do anything is how we do everything. So we're having conversations like this. It started with the hashtag #MeToo movement, the real one. Then it went into being inclusive and just being whoever it is that you want to be. Now I hope that this conversation opens us up to addressing root causes of all the traumas. We've all had traumas of some sort. We've all had that sort of patch-up care. And if we can just hold that sacred space for ourselves and each other to really heal that generational trauma and just bring us back home to our organic bodies, that's going to be so healing for the entire community and world at large. But this is why I loved the chapter about who's really in control. When you realize you're on this production line of how others want you to be and you reclaim that power, the same way women with cancer just decide to take control back of their own inner power and shave their heads before that chemotherapy. A friend of mine's about to have a mastectomy, and I've been in consult with her, and she was like, thank God for your book, Andi, because it's just the right timing for me. I've decided I'm going to embrace my flat. Yesterday, she sent me a picture of herself with a shaved head. I was like, wow, you are stunning. She was like, thank you so much. I was like, I'm kind of jealous. Like, this is so inspiring for me. And this divine feminine that she's like, you see it with Jada Pinkett too.
Yes.
Like, let's just go, here I am, guys, here I am, I am woman, hear me roar, this is me. And that's gorgeous too. And this is where we will now start to see and heal men too, Brody, to see women who we really are and what is beautiful, and how us as queens can make you feel like the king that you've just so wanted to feel. Because for so long, we've been from that suppressed woman to this empowered earning capacity woman to this we can do everything. And I think men got a little lost in like, where do I fit into? And I'm just hoping, Brody, that we all get to reconnect now.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think?
It's, I can only speak from my personal experience on this. Like a lot of the women in my life that I've known that have like had implants or things like that, it's almost like they get so caught up in like what you said. It's like keeping up with the Joneses. You see all these other girls and like kind of what you expect to look like. And a lot of these girls are like obscenely beautiful. And you're like, why do you feel the need to like take it to this next level? And I think it's interesting that you say, like what you said before, that divine femininity. It's almost like I've always been of the opinion, and I've had girlfriends talk to me about this as well. I've had girlfriends with and without, and they talk about sort of this subject, and I've always approached it from a, like, why do you really feel the need to do this? And they like want to get an opinion out of me so bad about it.
Wow.
And I just refuse to like be like yes or no in either way, because to me, I mean, like, obviously you were good enough for me as is, you know, you're good enough for yourself. Like, you don't need to do this sort of thing. But if this is really what you feel like is going to take you to that next level of happiness, then like do it. And so that brings me to another question I'm interested about to ask you. Like, how long did you have these before it sort of started going catastrophically, like you were feeling sick? Did you get to ride a high for a few months, like where you really felt good about it, or like kind of like fill me in on that?
That's a really good question. I had it for about eight or 9 years. I felt from week 1 there was something wrong with the left side, and it was a fold, but it progressively got worse. And it was in those moments now, upon reflection, that I realized this is the first doctor profession where we're actually more focused on aesthetic first and not health first. You know, every time you go to a doctor, they're focused on your health first. Secondly, medicine's not a perfect science, so this is why these things happen. Thirdly, these stories get swept under the rug, so that's why it's important for the women in the back of the book who have told their stories as well to feel heard, because half the healing's in the hearing. So it's so good that you're having these questions and wanting to learn as a man. But, you know, I just think that high that you speak of was, in hindsight, false. You know, and again, it was like, and this is why I call it treasured chest, because it was like there was a shield on me, protecting me in an intimate space, not wanting to address that true deep intimacy that could happen with myself, that part that you share. You know, and so it was a Band-Aid effect. Like, it did kind of help for a little while. But then I always look back and go, at what cost? You know, I'm a mum, I have a child. I wish that there were other ways to heal and not have to do that. But it just is what it is. And that's why I don't judge anyone who has or does. And if there are ladies out there who have, then I really support you in any stage that you are in your life. But at one point when you get ready to shed, just know that I'm here for you. This is why I had to write the book, because, you know, they're not trained. These professionals aren't trained in helping us through all of these emotions. And this is, I think, what the surgeons are starting to realize now in my story.
We had an expert come on our show, and she's hugely popular in the Tampa Bay area, and she is a spiritual healer. She works a lot with your chakra and, you know, exposing what's going on the inside. And she does work with women who have gone through explants. So we have touched on it, not to the same degree that we have with you, because we're actually talking to an author and a health expert that went through a surgery and went through a traumatic health journey. But I want to circle back to something that I think a lot of women are listening to right now, and they think, okay, not everybody's talking to a Brody that might be sensitive of how do you feel, or I support you, or what do you want? There are men out there that like the boobs. They want the boob job.
Right.
They'll buy it for the boob. They celebrate the augmentation. And there are women that feel like, hey, if I don't have this, if I don't, do this, then he's going to leave me. And the crazy thing is this expert came on our show, Elena Bensonoff, and said that she works with women where the guys have walked right out the door. And I guess at the end of the day, when I say it out loud, why would you want a man in your life that's going to walk out as soon as you don't have augmentation? But
100%.
I still want to address this question because I know it weighs heavy on the minds of many, many women. And we do things for the men in our lives, or the people that we love, that we know aren't always the best decisions.
And again, I always say, at what cost? Yeah, that's great. Let's have the candy. But at what cost? When we understand that there's a black box warning on these products, that Allergan had a total recall of all textured products. This is important warning signs. And then if you had to say to the man, would you rather this or potentially losing your love? That's where you got to go, wow. And then who am I with? So these conversations are important. Yes, Brody's sensitive, but, think about the decades of conditioning. Think about, there's a story I wrote about in the book about how implants were even found it or discovered. There were a group of doctors working in an ER ward, and somebody was running around with a bag of blood, and he kind of said to his colleague, "Oh, this kind of feels like a breast." And I'm like, wow. Then they created implants, these saline. And I'm like, that's kind of weird that these guys are even working in emergency and thinking like that anyway.
Is it? No, I'm just kidding.
And they just see dollar signs. Yeah.
Well, that's it, and that's it. And you have to remember, like, we are a forever customer. Yeah. I just had an article published in the Australian Jewish News about the forever customer.
Yep.
We every once in a while, it's not there now, but it'll come back up because we're rotating these pictures. There's a before and after, and I have to say, Andi, I think you look absolutely beautiful without the implants. You were beautiful with them, but a lot of women might be thinking, how do I look? How do I feel? How will I feel about myself? Mm-hmm. There's a side-by-side picture and you look really pretty.
Bless you.
How do you feel?
I don't even care anymore. I'm just alive.
Yeah.
But bless you for saying that. That's just obviously an extra bonus, and I appreciate that. Gail, that's really sweet. I think all women are beautiful.
I
and
do
I think
too.
Seeing my friend, with her shaved head and she's about to have flat with just scars, she's the most gorgeous, inspiring. I'm like, you are everything. And that's what I want for us all, just to embrace however we are, whether it's like the freckles, the color of our skin, the way we eat, the way we pray. Like, we're all so different. But when you see that in her eyes and like the way she carries herself, what I find is beautiful is obviously confidence and posture, like how you hold yourself. Do you keep your head up high? That's kind of like why in the book I've got my head up high. It, shows what I've had to go through. On the back of the book, I'm laughing because sometimes I do go through like, wow, I beat this. I really didn't care what anyone said and I went through with it. And then, of course, the most important thing to look at when we view this health club video footage is the size of the left implant compared to the right one. It's considerably smaller, and you'll see me sitting in hospital and I'm completely puffy, like I'm completely inflamed. And then I, within days, just lost all this inflammation instantly.
Unbelievable. What a journey you've been on. You say there is a chapter. I just got my hands on the book for the first time today, but you do say you spend a lot of time talking about the why, because I think as women, and I even have to self-correct a little. I'm looking at you from the outside and I look at myself a lot of times from the outside when we really need to discover who we are on the inside. So is that a good portion of your book as well?
100%. Like, it's just a bit of a memoir, an autobiography, and someone who, has wellness coached others for decades, finally wellness coaching myself on every level and really just displaying to others what's possible, taking control of the journey, right from how I decided to enter the operating theatre to how my perception was, and then the journey moving forward in paying it forward to helping others through turning my own pain into purpose and my own trauma into triumphs. Those are the things that are important to note. And, in this, waiting room area before you go and have a surgery, you're usually just sitting there looking at sort of the traumatic news of the world. And I started thinking, this isn't how I want to walk into my life-changing surgery. So I noticed behind me there was a prayer room, and I thought, oh, wow, like people must go in there before, and I'm like, I'm not super religious or anything, but I reckon I could go in there and do some yoga or some just breathing and stuff. And then I put on some Fleetwood Mac, and then I started dancing and I was like, yeah. And then Dr. Gordon, the anaesthetologist, this is the story in the book, he was gorgeous. He was like, because I had to beg them to kind of let me keep the music on as I was entering. They're like, we don't normally do this. And I was like, you know what, I know and I understand why, but it would just mean so much to me if I could, really embrace this holistic approach of what this is. And so they let me put it on very faintly on his computer screen in the background. So he walks in and he goes, nice choice of music. Any other requests? And I said, well, perhaps some Reiki.
Yeah.
And I said, can you say nice things to me as I'm going under? And he said, Andi, I'm going to say nice things to you the whole time. And, then I was out. And I woke up feeling different. I was this new me. And I think you have to kind of visualize the outcome that you want, not just going into a life-changing surgery, but every day of our lives. Because you were talking about fear, and I always say what we fear, we attract. So stop giving that fear the energy. Let's actually, from a neuro-linguistic programming perspective, start to say what we do want and manifest that instead of thinking about what could happen and what we don't want, because the universe gives us that with the law of attraction too.
Unbelievable. Brody, do you have any final questions for Andi?
I mean, what would you say to someone who's considering getting implants or they're already sort of experiencing these symptoms?
You know, that was really hard for me because I just had the surgery and I was in the midst of writing this book. And one of my dear friends who is a healer. It's what she does all day, every day. Vogue's written about her. She's got like hundreds of thousands of followers and she helps people remove trauma. And she was like, Andi, I didn't want to tell you this, but I'm booked to do it. And I was like, no.
Did you talk her out of it?
You know what? A part of me did. And then she said, I totally understand. This is why I didn't want to tell you, because I knew you'd want to talk me out of it, but I've already decided. And I couldn't sleep for 3 days. I was sweating. And I spoke to a friend of mine and she goes, Ans, I know why this is like so hard for you, because it feels like it's you all over again. Because we're sisters, like we're all connected, right? And it's almost like I could foresee what might happen for her later. But then I remembered that we all have our own journey. And this was her journey. And she did have a trauma background too. So she kind of understood mine and I understood hers, and I just watch her every day with love, and I just hope that she's just going to be on top of those symptoms if they ever do, you know, arise, and she doesn't have to wait to remove as long as what I did, because when, you know, you can't afford the surgery, that's tragic. We need to change that in the medical system, and that's the other thing I'd like to address, the elephant in the room. You guys realize how many women can't actually afford the surgery? There's GoFundMes everywhere, and we just need to support them.
It seems to be more affordable to get them put in than to get them taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Andi Lou, everybody. The book, again, is Treasured Chest, Exposing Explants and Empowering You. Again, you can look for this podcast on Apple, Spotify. We'll upload it on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share this with our friends. And thank you, my friend, for coming in and joining us with this very powerful message for women.
I'm so grateful to both of you. And yeah, thanks to the Bloom Health Club.
All right. Thank you very much. Until next time.